This Late Night Linux Family podcast is made possible by our patrons. Go to latenightlinux.com/support for details of how you can join them. Support us on Patreon for access to ad-free episodes and early releases. That's latenightlinux.com/support. Hello and welcome to episode 351 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 8th of September 2025. I'm Joe, and with me are Félim.
Good evening.
Graham.
Hello.
And Will.
Hello.
Let's get straight on with our discoveries. Will, another honourable mention for Clonezilla. We've talked about this before, but it got you out of a spot recently.
Yeah, I've used this tool a lot over the years, and it's seemingly used it maybe 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years. And each time it's been to install a new hard disk into one of my kids' PCs, which has become full or very nearly full, and I need to swap it out for something else. But I don't want to reinstall anything, and I want the downtime to be minimal so that I can do it while the kids are out, and I want it to just work. And each time I stick Clonezilla on a USB stick, boot it up, copy from one disk to another disk, and it just works. And then resizing those partitions is relatively straightforward in Windows once it's been done. But I've never had any problems with it. It's nice and, not secure, safe, I think is the word I mean. You know, you've still got the original disk. You're not losing any data. You're not risking anything. You can blat it onto a new disk over USB 3. It's pretty quick, and it just works. It's a great piece of software, and if you have to do this exercise, then it's what I'd highly recommend.
I have found one flaw in it that normally wouldn't really have been a thing, but it doesn't support ZFS.
It was using quite an old Debian version. I've got a feeling there was a version that was based on Ubuntu for a while, and I think maybe they changed back to being Debian-based, or maybe there's a spin which runs off Ubuntu, which maybe that does, but I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the licensing thing
Probably.
stopping that working.
Yeah, I'd say something like that. And let's face it, your OS disk should be small, simple, and probably not bother with ZFS on anyway, so...
Oh, don't tell the FreeBSD people that.
Well, all 5 of them can just go and fuck right off.
We'll fight them.
Félim, you bought yourself an e-ink tablet called a Kobo Clara Color. Or is it an e-reader?
It is an e-reader, and it is a e-ink display. The main reason was the fact that I have a ungodly amount of PDFs and ebook files that are just sitting there languishing, and I am bad at reading stuff from start to finish. If I'm looking for something that's like a coding problem or a sysadmin problem, you know, like if I'm looking at Docker or something else, whatever, I can search through the PDFs and I can look at my screen for a short while, but it's generally only a couple of pages, and I just lose the will to live looking at it because it's just awful to read. So I thought, there's got to be an e-reader you can get that isn't attached to Amazon, that, you know, isn't network connected to the point where they can reach out and take away books from your library or whatever, because that's really, really annoying. So I had been given a recommendation by one of the guys, Jeffrey Bowder, before he had a Kobo reader, which is apparently an anagram for book, which really is annoying that I discovered that now.
Ah, that's why it's called Kobo.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. It would have put me off it maybe now at this point. But so I looked into them. They had one that was a color screen, because I thought it would be kind of cool if there was color diagrams in a book. I have a few PDFs which actually look better on the screen than do in the paperback book, which I have because they have a bit of color in them, but there's also annotations you can do with this one. So I got the Kobo Clara Color. Now, it was about 169. I got a case for it as well, which is about 20 quid. I have no idea what it runs itself. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Linux, but it's a black box. But the thing that I liked about it was the fact that it doesn't have a specialist app I need to install. All I do is plug it in with a USB-C cable into the PC, and it just turns up as a storage device, and I can copy over a set of PDFs or ebook files, or there's a whole load of them that it does, like Mobi and all those other ones.
EPUB and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Mine are mainly PDFs. I do have a few EPUBs, and it turns out the EPUBs actually work a little bit better. They don't for Ocular. they kind of do this weird thing where it splits them weirdly as it's looking at them. And it works really well on the reader itself. PDFs, on the other hand, have this tendency to look like an A4 page. You have to kind of do a little bit of a pinch zoom on it. And I wish, and I haven't found yet, whether there is a way to say, just discard all the margins and just like fully fit the text in the screen, in which case it'd be perfect. But at the moment, all I have is a quick flick between a page. You have to just kind of maybe shift the text about a bit. Not a disaster. The main thing is the fact that it lasts for weeks. Apparently, battery-wise, like I've had one charge and I'm not even down below 80% right now. And for essentially the first time, I have actually read more on this in the entirety of last year's genuine reading of anything. And that includes like paperback books as well. I've read solid for the entire week and a half at this point. So early days, but yeah, it is actually really nice to use. And on your eyes, it's got a night mode setting where it can kind of turn the back. It has a backlight if you want it. It doesn't have to have a backlight. But if you turn the backlight on, it has a night mode where it kind of gradually fades to kind of pinkishy orange sort of color rather than a bluish white. So yeah, very happy with it. Build quality is great. Battery life seems to be fantastic. If I find it's terrible after a few months, I will let you know. But otherwise, yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Just a very quick mention for just a QR code made by Gabe Schuler, I think you say that. Although I did click through to his blog and the featured images are all AI bullshit, so maybe I shouldn't mention this. But anyway, it's a really useful tool. You basically just put some text or a URL in and it just creates you a QR code. There's not much else to say. You've got different colors available, different sizes, but it's just a basic QR code creator on the web for free.
Well, I am going to one-up you then. You can have QR encode on the command line and also pipe all sorts of shenanigans into it and get it to output them. I was using it for WireGuard configs, so people with phones could install it and you could just point them at it. So there you go.
Well, I also have a use case, but this time for normal people.
I don't like you.
One of the clubs I work with wanted to...
Hang on, this is the second time you've brought up this club. Is it a bunch of anorak-wielding microphone hams?
Or is there a bowl of car keys involved?
There's no car keys involved. It's a local flying club, and they want to link people to their membership form, which is online, when they arrive at the club to sign up. You know, you have to sign the form in order to be covered by the insurance. And a great big long URL was not working, and they wanted a QR code. So I went looking for a nice straightforward QR code generator. I swore there was one built into Chrome, but I couldn't find it. And all I could find were QR code generators that would, with a URL, would redirect you to some other intermediate hop so that they could intercept the traffic, or, you know, or overlay adverts or some shit. I just wanted a really basic one, and I couldn't find one. So this is very useful.
There you go.
QR and code. CLI. Come on. You could even do it on your phone with Termux. It'd be fine.
I used another one recently, actually, mini-QR off GitHub, which I found really good for not inserting things and not adding its own image stamp to it.
But this is just a website. You can just go to the website. You can do it on a phone. You can do it on a laptop. You can do it wherever.
Well, you want to change the color. This one I found lets you change all kinds of things about how the QR code looks.
Why do you want to do that?
I was doing a presentation, that's why. And it needed to be Ubuntu colors.
Sudo apt install QR and code.
Graham, Nalali MIDI. Is that how you say this?
God, it's a terrible name. I think so. This is basically a kind of modular MIDI note processor. MIDI is like the protocol used for musical instruments to talk to one another. It includes things like note data and note on and off signals and control signals. And what this is like a modular environment to connect signals together and filter them, and also to program your own kind of filters and controllers with them. It's got a GUI, but it's also got like a really good API if you've got a dumb MIDI controller that doesn't do anything. If you wanted to turn it into a sequencer, or you wanted to convert the signals that it sends into something that a synthesizer can interpret to change its own parameters. This is something that makes it much easier than creating your own, programming your own. It reminds me a little bit of bars and pipes on the Amiga, which was a sequencer where you could link things together. So you have a note input going into an octave transpose that would then make the notes go up and down, that could then go into a splitter which would put every odd note into something else. And you can build up these kind of pathways using this in the same way. It's a little rough around the edges. In fact, the UI looks like it's been built on an Amiga, but I don't know anything else that's quite like it. And I've actually been looking for something like bars and pipes for a modern computer for a long time. This is probably the closest I've found for MIDI data.
I'm looking at the flow diagram that it has of the setup, and it strikes me a bit like the one that you get in Pulse Audio. Now, not that I would know how and what to use that for. I did go into it one time, and I think I fucked something up terribly and just went, back away. But how sort of tweakable is this, or is it dragons be there sort of thing?
That's a really good point. I think Pulse Audio, that layer of processing MIDI data and audio data, is the right place for this kind of thing, but it's lacking the kind of the modules to do it. It's lacking the components that you can drop in to do all of these things. In an ideal situation, I think that's where we should be doing this kind of stuff. But because it's not there, this project is quite well established and has been doing it for a long time. This kind of is its own thing. In an ideal world, these things would be migrated to work right within Pulse Audio or Pipewire.
Yeah. I wonder how feasible that would be to do, or is that a massive project?
It's probably not that big, actually. We're just revealing how niche this whole thing is. Maybe, I don't know, I can't say I'd look into it, but it would be a great project to do it. I really agree. And yeah, something like the bars and pipes in Pulse Audio would be awesome.
I don't know what that is, but I will look it up.
Okay, this episode is sponsored by Tailscale. Go to tailscale.com/LNL. Tailscale is the easiest way to connect devices and services to each other, wherever they are. Tailscale gives you secure remote access to any resource anywhere in the world, whether that's databases, servers, Kubernetes, on-prem boxes, virtual private clouds, desktop PCs, 3D printers, or off-site backups in your friend's garage. Connect anything and everything you want, wherever it is, and get started in minutes. Tailscale's personal plan will always be free, and you get up to 100 devices and 3 users for free with no credit card required. So support the show and go to tailscale.com/LNL and try Tailscale out today. Or if you want to use Tailscale at an industrial scale, with more users and devices, or take advantage of features like MDM policies, auditing, network flow logging, and priority support, try it out at work using the code Linux25. You'll get 3 free months of any Tailscale paid plan, and you can find out why thousands of companies like Instacart, Hugging Face, and Duolingo have switched to Tailscale. That's code Linux25. Will, Pico RV32IMA.
Have you ever wanted to use your RP2040, which is your Raspberry Pi Pico, as a Linux box? Of course you have.
Yes.
Well, there you go. So, but you can't very easily. And so what RV32IMA does is emulate a RISC-V RV32IMA processor on your Raspberry Pi 2040, complete with a VGA output and a PS2 keyboard input using the pins on the RP2040. So no extra hardware. Well, strictly speaking, some resistors are needed, but it works. So you need an SPI connected RAM chip, which come in about chunks of about 8 megabytes each, and it talks to those over SPI, so quite slow. It only does sort of very basic CPU extensions. So the RV32IMA means that it does basic integer operations, that's the I. It does do hardware multiply and divide, that's the M, and it supports atomic instructions, which apparently are important for things like multitasking. So, it is a very basic RISC-V processor, but a RISC-V processor nonetheless. So you can boot up Linux on this in about 10 minutes, get to a working login. But you can get your VGA output, you can use an SD card for storage, you can plug your PS2 keyboard in, and you can boot to Linux on a Raspberry Pi Pico.
And how long does an LS take?
He has no idea. He started it at the end of last episode and it's still going.
I'll let you know. Yeah. Once it's booted up, it's almost usable for things like LS, but you perhaps don't want to be thinking about getting rid of your laptop just yet.
Could you do basic text editing on it?
Yeah, probably. If you had to, I think you could do. The screen resolution is quite low. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's pretty low. So it would be a challenge.
Right. So this is just one of those just to see if we could do it type things.
Yes, exactly.
And why not? Graham, type better with Typer.
Maybe 10 years ago, I really suffered from RSI. And weirdly, or maybe not weirdly, it really affected my elbow. I had chronic pain in my elbow, so I decided to change my whole setup. I switched to a trackball and changed my keyboard to a split tented keyboard with the keys aligned vertically rather than, offset. And, I typed for a living and it was horrendously difficult to learn how to use. And at the time, there was a website that I did use called Keybur. It's still going, which basically asks you to type in a stream of words and it analyzes your typing to find your weakest spots and then introduces words that force you to practice those weakest parts. It's still a really good web app, actually, Keybur.
Keybur and Typer, the fucking irony of that. Just missing out random letters for a thing that teaches you how to type.
Yeah, that's true. So I've posted somewhere, I did it for 6 months. I did it more or less half an hour a day on Keybur. And there's a really nice chart of I'm not a super crazy fast typist, but going from something like 5 words per minute to whatever was reasonable, 70 or 80, it really, really helped me. And I actually ended up finding it quite relaxing, spending 10 minutes a day just typing and zoning out and copying the words as they came on the screen. Anyway, Keybur is not open source. It's also become slightly monetized with a premium version, and it's ad supported now. Typer, Typr, is an open source offline version you can run in the console with like a Tmux TUI with cursors. The algorithm it uses for selecting the text, this is the important thing, the words that you type, is based, I guess, on their best guess of what the Keybur algorithm is for bringing up words that highlight the weaknesses. It's really simple. It doesn't have the nice UI yet that Keybur does in terms of monitoring your progress, but you can absolutely monitor your progress in terms of the time it takes for you to type. And it's got the same feeling, and I really like it. If I was looking to relearn how to type, I'd highly recommend it.
I just had a go at Keybur. I was like 30-something words a minute, which is not very good, is it?
So if you did that 10 minutes a day for the next week, I bet you'll find a significant improvement. It's really interesting. It'll be things like the cues and it does it according to efficiency. So the E in the middle of certain words, like E was obviously being one of the most common letters in the English language anyway. It's clever to see where your weaknesses are, and then it gives you words which force you to type those things.
I can't help but feel it would be a lot easier if I didn't have a giant microphone in my face.
Well, in the end, I became a touch typist because of this.
How did you learn your touch typing, though? You wouldn't have probably learnt it with this, though, would you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I've never learnt it more formally. It's interesting. If you ask me where on a keyboard something is, I have to think of a word with that letter in and then type it in my head, and then I know where it is. I can't tell you where these things are from memory, just from muscle memory.
Yeah, it's same for me. Like, I can pretty much touch type, but not 100%. And yeah, I don't know where any of them are, but if I typed it out, same as you, I can find it.
But I know quite a few people who with RSI, and I really recommend a split keyboard, but the learning curve is tough. And so anything that makes that easier, I highly recommend. Try and gamify it a little bit. And I had both, for real work, if I had a real deadline, I had an ordinary QWERTY keyboard plugged in at the same time while I did this, and I forced myself to use the split keyboard for a longer and longer period.
Yeah, nice that it's just a TUI though, nice and light.
Yeah, and it's got the same feeling.
And there's a game that's related to this, Epistory.
Yeah, so When I started out with this, trying to relearn how to type, another thing I came across was a Steam game with a native Linux version called Epistory. It's quite old now. You can pick it up quite cheap. I'd say that it's child-friendly. It's an adventure game with kind of anthropomorphic animals that go adventuring. But everything in it is through the keyboard, and not like a traditional PC keyboard game, through the keyboard in a way that's designed to train you to become a touch typist. So you cast spells and things by typing in a certain way that teaches good practice on the keyboard. So by becoming good at the game, you're also becoming a great typist. And I had a lot of fun with this as well. Using the typer equivalent and Epistory, those two things together actually kind of sealed the deal on me getting to learn the split keyboard. And I highly recommend it. And also great for kids who you may want to, without telling them, improve their typing skills. Although maybe it's too late because they're already incredible on-screen keyboards on their phones. I don't know.
So, Mavis Beacon teaches typing, whatever it was in the early 90s in our school. You used to be behind the wheel of a car, and every time you made a mistake, a fly would splat on the windscreen. What do you think a bunch of lads in the school did? Mashed the keyboard repeatedly to see who could get the fastest number of dead flies in their car. What a fucking ridiculous training system. This kind of looks like it might be good. Is it not Epi-Story, a story about EpiPens? But no? Okay.
Yeah, I thought that as well, actually. Or Epic Story, but they missed the C out, again, ironically.
I think there's some meaning there that I've forgotten about in the word. What does it mean, Epistory?
Well, I'll tell you, the description of the game on Steam looks like somebody trying to use the largest words possible to describe something, so you have to type really awkward words.
I've tried searching for it, and all I can find is the game.
Yeah,
I think they made it up.
Yeah,
but it's like a epistemological or whatever it is.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I have discovered that R and E are next to each other on the keyboard. Because when I tried to do Crontab-E, I accidentally typed Crontab-R, which wipes your fucking Crontab.
No!
Thankfully, I only had like 3 jobs in there that I knew what they were and I could recreate them. But that could be quite painful, I think, if you had quite a few jobs in there.
Do you really not have to save it afterwards?
You type Crontab-R and then just seemingly nothing happens. It's like, okay, Crontab-E. And then it presents you with a nice, clean, fresh, empty Crontab. Did you not know that then?
No!
Well, now you do. And now everyone does. Don't do -R. Just don't do it. Okay, this episode is sponsored by Entroware. Go to entroware.com. Entroware sells laptops, desktops, and servers with Ubuntu pre-installed. Most parts are configurable, so you can pick the CPU, RAM, and storage that's right for you. If you can't find exactly what you're looking for, then do contact them and they'll work with you on a bespoke solution that's perfect for your needs. They ship to the UK, Republic of Ireland, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. And if you do buy one of their machines, there's a little drop-down at checkout where you can select Late Night Linux so they'll know that we sent you. So go to entroware.com for all your Linux computing needs. Let's do a quick KDE Korner then. The 2024 KDE financial report is out.
Yeah, they've a rise in awareness. They've got donations that are about 5 times more than the previous years, which is fantastic. There are some issues, which is staffing, trying to get people involved in a project. But they go through a whole lot of stuff like the goals of sustainability, accountability, automating a bunch of stuff. They go through all the different applications they have. But one of the coolest things I thought was the fact that the supporters of the project, as in just standard users contributing money, are about 70% of their funds. And the people who benefit from that for going to, conferences and stuff is actually the staff at about roughly 65%. This is me looking at a pie chart, so I do apologize if that is not exactly correct, but I think, that's good. It's like people supporting it, people getting the benefit of it, and yeah, we all do well. So it's a good read. Lots of stuff in there, so people should, if they fancy reading it.
I think that number of donations graph is really exciting to see. You can see where they put the nag in, and suddenly it shoots up.
Yeah, and it is literally about 5 times the amount of contributors. Like, it's fantastic.
All right, something sort of tangentially related to KDE. Pietro DiCaprio posted on Mastodon, We formally sent a proposal to the GNOME Foundation and KDE EV leadership for a unified Linux App Summit that would merge Guardec Academy and the current Linux App Summit into a single event. And then there's an open letter about that. You're a bit skeptical about this, aren't you, Félim?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we did have this kind of before. I think it was about 5-6 years ago, though. Maybe Graham remembers a bit more than I do, but I think we had kind of done this, and that's kind of what the LAS was. That is still continuing to go. And yeah, I don't know. I think GNOME's having a lot of problems right now, and I don't think KDE needs to get affected by them. But, I think that's why we have LAS as a separate thing. People come together to write the apps. People want to follow the apps. So I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one at the moment, I think.
It sort of does make sense for KDE to have their thing, GNOME to have their thing, and then to have a separate joint thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Although there is kind of strength in numbers. Like you could get potentially discounts on venues or, better deals on venues and stuff. And you could have just a GNOME track and a KDE track potentially. Sure,
but I do think they are slightly different projects the way they do things. Joking aside, I think they have their opinions and KDE have theirs. So I don't know. I don't know what you would share in that sort of side of things. I'm not sure.
All right. Announcing the alpha of KDE Linux. So this is the immutable Arch-based, image-based KDE kind of replacement for Neon.
Yeah, and it's quite a good overview of it. Nate goes through that he's been using it for actually ages and stuff and things, and points out that unfortunately Neon is trailing to its end by the looks of it if the new people can't pick it up, which is a bit disappointing, especially for me. But there's a few blockers for me on this still, for file system level, ZFS and things like that. So I'm not 100% sure where to go after this, but if anybody's willing to try one out, and I may even try this out on a laptop where I don't actually need any of that, it might be the perfect example for it, and then give it a go.
Yeah, well, I put this on my X270 ThinkPad. It must be a couple of months ago when they first announced this, when the first images were available. I didn't realize that was pre-alpha, but I've managed to update it to what I think is the alpha, and it's still working. Although I had weird network dropouts, but I don't know if that was my access point or whether it was the laptop or what. But otherwise, it just works perfectly for a basic Linux laptop.
That's quite cool. And he goes through various things like, how it's sort of architected from a very high level, but things like, the fact that they don't use flatbacks everywhere. In fact, they're really terrible for like system level apps, so they actually use for basic ones the normal sort of way of packaging it into the main ISO and stuff. So I think anybody who's maybe even skeptical, worth throwing it on something somewhere if you can, and I will do likewise.
Well, I think it's exciting, and I look forward to seeing what comes of it. And I think that when I finally give KDE a proper go, I think it's likely to be on KDE Linux.
Good.
Just to spite you, Félim.
It's fine. It's a win and a lose all at the same time. I'm not sure what the balance is, whether it's actually 50-50 or not.
Or I might just, run it on Fedora just to really piss you off. Right, well, we better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when who knows what it'll be. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Félim.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.